A shout out to each and every one of you, ladies and gentlemen, fight fans all around the world. We're going to talk some boxing. I'm what you need. You can subscribe to my channel as well as donate to my channel via Western Union MoneyGram. As you can see, there are some of my notifications. And one of them is that Jamal Charlo announces that on December 21st, he will be rematching Tony Harrison. That's really cool. But that's not what I'm going to talk about right now. I'm going to address Rollo Pollo Bear. Rollo Pollo Bear, shout out to you. You asked the question, can you do a video on guys like Pro Gray, Wilder Spence, and Sergio Martinez, and what it takes to be on a fast track to getting good at boxing when starting late in life? Let me try and address that for you, my friend. So, the person I'm first going to talk about is Bernard Hopkins. Bernard Hopkins, if you go and you look at his career, Bernard Hopkins didn't have any kind of extensive amateur career. None whatsoever. He also was born in 1965, and as you can see here from BoxRec, he started boxing in 1988, which means he was 23 years of age when he started his pro career. Okay? And he was probably in his 20s when he first started his amateur career, which was in the prisons. Even so, we see that Bernard Hopkins, when we look at his background here, you will see that Bernard Hopkins has won against former and current world titleists in the following names: Lupe Aquino, John David Jackson, Glenn Johnson, Simon Brown, Keith Holmes, Felix Trinidad, Carl Daniels, William Jaffe, Oscar De La Hoya, Antonio Tarver, Winky Ronald, Kenny Pallett, Roy Jones Jr., Jean Pascal, Tavares Carr, and Beba Chuvanov. This is an incredible career, a very long-lasting career. So what allowed Bernard Hopkins to do that? Well, first and foremost, Bernard Hopkins was trained by Bowie Fischer. That was his first trainer, and Nazim Richardson. Okay? And then in 2016 by John David Jackson. The trainer has a lot to do, first of all, with you starting late in life and being able to understand the sport of boxing, because that trainer is supposed to give you the skills. Skills are taught. Skills are not naturally born. You're not naturally born with skills. You are taught skills. However, what you'll find out about all of these boxers is that they had a predisposition to fighting, to boxing. Okay? Bernard Hopkins ended up in prison. In prison, it's rough. It was Philadelphia, the roughest place ever. And he learned boxing in the prisons. And then was trained by Bowie Fischer and Nazim Richardson. All right? So, that's huge. Now, we don't need to go through Bernard Hopkins' illustrious career, but I do need to touch on something. Because he didn't have an extensive amateur background, the matchmakers have a lot to do with how a fighter is progressing forward. Because they're the ones that put them up against the prospective opponents. And when you are a debutante and then you become a prospect, you're matched in different levels. You go to a different level when you can handle that level. So, all of this depends on a number of things. One, how quickly you can master your skill set and how quickly you can amass skills, different skills and techniques and crafts of boxing. If you're a quick learner, that's great. Now you have to hone those skills. So, especially for people who start late, they have to dedicate themselves. And one of the things all these people have in common is they have a level of focus. Okay? All these guys I'm going to talk about, they have a level of focus. The other thing is they have to master skills, so they have to work maybe doubly as hard as somebody else who started from very young. So the learning curve is very steep for them. But these people, almost all these people, they're predisposed to fighting. They like to fight. Two, they have a mindset that's different to other people. They like challenges. They embrace challenges. They embrace their fear. They embrace their anxiety. They embrace these things, and they use them to fuel them to get them to the next level. Besides being given God-given talent, which all of them generally have, which kind of brings them above the curve, they also have this internal ability to accept a challenge and go after it. Now, it's up to the matchmakers to make sure that the challenges that they face are not too much that it overwhelms them or destroys them and destroys their careers. Okay? So, like, for instance, Bernard Hopkins, he lost his first fight against Clinton Mitchell by majority decision. It was kind of close. So therefore, he was matched with somebody who actually had a loss, Greg Page. And then he came back to a debutant who had not lost before, and he faced Keith Gray. So he's building up his confidence, and then he starts again facing tougher and tougher competition as he moves along his career, and he was knocking out everybody until he reached the USBA level. Now the USBA level is like contender level. So when you win, like he wins the vacant USBA middleweight title right here, that is contender level. It's basically like the interim WBC belt, which Devin Haney's going to be competing for against an opponent. Czar Abdullayev, I think it is, right? So they're both contender levels, and after that, they just go for the title after. And he went for the title against Roy Jones Jr. He lost. So he went back to contender level and faced contender opposition, okay, after losing to Roy Jones Jr. USB middleweight title. See, he defended that a couple times. And then he went on to face again for the IBF middleweight title against Segundo Mercado. And he had a draw. He went again a third time for the title, and he won. He knocked out Segundo Mercado. It was a good fight. So you have to understand that that it's a process of the fighter learning on the job in the pros because they don't have extensive amateur background. Okay, let's go to, so they're brought up a little bit different. So it's not, fast tracking is only as far as you are capable of handling. The matchmakers have to take into consideration you as a fighter. Okay? Let me try and refresh this a bit. Can I refresh it? No? No? Yeah? No? No? I should be able to refresh. There's no refresh button. That's weird. Here's what it is. I'll go backwards. Then I'll go forwards. There you go. So the same thing happened with Sergio Martinez. So if I come out here and I look, he had an amateur background that we know about. He had 41 fights, 39-2. But you can see that he had great talent. So his great talent here, as you can see, I have to move pretty fast. He won the Argentine National Amateur Welterweight Championship. Then he went competed as a light middleweight in World Championships in Budapest. Those were the two things he had. So he had some experience in the amateurs. But since he had a limited amateur background, it's only expected that in the pros he would have to learn. So when he goes to the pros, he does most of his Argentinian fights. He's matched with a 6-rounder to start, and then he goes into 4-rounders, 6-rounders, 8-rounders. You see, he's moving up to 10-rounders. Okay, he's winning all these things in Argentina, 10-rounders, and then he loses his. He gets to the contender level. No, he makes his debut into the United States of America against Antonio Margarito, and he gets knocked out by Antonio Margarito. But it's a learning experience. All the losses is a learning experience for these guys. They take it on as a challenge and to master that challenge. By the way, a boxer doesn't really think about his opposition that he's facing. He's trying to master certain skills and certain techniques and certain crafts. So he's really working on that. He's really working on himself and paying attention to himself. So by doing this now, he can learn how to clear up some holes in his game. He goes on, he moves back a bit. So from a 10-rounder, he goes to a 6, then back to an 8-rounder, building confidence. Then he gets his first 12-rounder in which he knocks out the guy in 4. A next 10-rounder, then an 8-rounder, and then he goes to a 10-rounder again, and he's building back up to 12-rounders. Now, because he's learning so fast and he's doing things so well and he has a lot of talent and he's building on his skills and he's working on his craft every single day, dedicating himself to this craft, he's getting better and better and better. But, of course, some of his guard gifting is what's really helping him, the quick footwork, the quick movement, and so on, okay? Anyway, he works his way into a sort of paper championship title, the IBO championship. I probably have to do this in parts, guys. All right, so I'll do part 2 just now. And then he works his way up until he becomes a world champion. When he becomes a world champion, he becomes a world champion not at welterweight. He gets it at super welterweight. He becomes interim champion and then becomes world champion against Paul Williams to Kelly Plavlik. Kelly Plavlik is who he becomes world champion with. And when you become world champion status, two things can happen. You can be content and move backwards, or you can keep on working. And because he lost so early in his career, he keeps on working, okay? All right, we'll talk a little bit more. Part two's coming up.